Alright everyone, I have another problem on this 2000 Lincoln Navigator, and the only current problem with it is this code right here, which is a C1725, and it has to do with the front. It's a general pneumatic fault. Basically, the module knows the front is not raising and lowering as commanded, but it does not know why. I'm going to show you a quick trick on what you can do to test. Alright, so if your compressor's not coming on, it's not responding at all, what you can do is come up front here, and there's a sensor. You can see it right here, and these are old style and the older Navigators and Expeditions, and they're pretty reliable as far as the sensor itself, but their mountings on them aren't. So these may fall off every once in a while and cause problems front or rear. But this is an easy thing you could do to make sure this is kind of the sensor, the mounting. Now of course you're going to see it falling off, and that's obviously a problem, but it may be one of the 2 or 3 on your particular vehicle. So what you can do, make sure the compressor and the module is seeing everything correctly, and the compressor actually can raise and lower, vent solenoids, gate valves, everything's being checked by this one little test. All I gotta do is reach in here and take it off, and right now it thinks its suspension is way down, which means the suspension is actually jacked way up, the body of it is. So as you heard right there, it turns on the vent, you hear air venting, and then of course you'll see the body start coming down close to the wheel wells here. Same thing, you go like this, push it up, see that? And the compressor should come on, telling you that the compressor is fine. Here the solenoids come on, all the gate valves, and then of course you'll see the body raise. Right now it thinks the vehicle is slammed to the ground and is trying to correct it to that 2.68 volts, 2.7, which is right height. And same thing. Let go of it, it thinks it's way jacked up all of a sudden. It does take a while to react to it. We heard it stop the compressor, and then of course turn the vent on. It's trying to correct back to that 2.7. Now if this is off like this and flopping, it's broken, it's not holding, that's what it's going to do. It's going to not see a change in voltage from this, but it's turning the compressor on, turning the compressor on. Well, that just sets a general pneumatic fault. Thinks there's an air leak somewhere, and it just can't pump it up or vent it out. It's kind of a general fault code. So you need to start checking items like this, or airline leaks, or what's common on these also is the air shocks themselves down in here. I know it's pretty dark in here, but let's see if we can turn it down here. Oh, there it goes. There we go. The air shocks in here, what happens a lot on these, they'll get to a certain height, ride height, right? Maybe a little higher because you're going down the road bumps, and the air seals on the shock down there, they'll be torn, so at a certain height, it'll lose air also. And then this thing's constantly going on. This is connected, everything's fine, right? But the compressor will notice it's dropping once you get to that point, and it's constantly coming on, correcting. And that's pretty common for the air shocks on these. So there's a few different things. Usually it's an air leak or a sensor fault like this where it just cannot, when it's commanded, it just is not moving. And it'll set that fault and disable the compressor also. And that's why you may notice everything gets slammed to the ground, front and rear. So we're going to put this back up on here. This one fell off. You can see the mounting on it is just fine. The metal tab on here just isn't strong enough. So what you can do, because these sensors, like I said, are pretty reliable in the older ones, is pop it back on. Okay, popped on, went to right height, and then just zip tie it around in here a couple times so it doesn't pop off again on there. And you can see now it's correcting once again. Just open the gate valve and both sides are pumping now. You can see it moving. And once it gets to that ride height, listen again after that venting like that for additional air leaks. It should hold at this point. Alright, so I'll show you on the scan tool what it looks like. You see the front fill is on, the gate valve's on. Now we need to turn the compressor on, and then we'll watch the height sensor voltage change. And that's what it's looking for, and once it doesn't find that, and notice the compressor's coming on because there's no fault over here, it'll throw that general pneumatic fault and disable the system to prevent any kind of problems. So we are going to get it going again here. There we go. And we're going to turn the compressor on and go from there. Front fill, gate valve, and now we're going to turn the compressor on. And you'll see it there. Now it's just going to keep going past the ride height set point voltage because I'm commanding it with the scan tool. And you can see it changing. Same thing. Now I'm going to turn the vent on over here, and we're going to vent down. And you can see the voltage going down. And that's what it's looking for. Now, if you are diagnosing a C1725 code, the good news is the fault only lies in the front half of the vehicle. So the first thing you want to do is inspect the air lines themselves, make sure there's no damage to them, nicks, cuts, disconnection, stuff like that. Especially around the curve, they like to get brittle and crack on the curves. And the air lines go from the right front wheel well area, the air compressor, over to the gate valve and the front cross member, and then from there on out it branches out to each air shock on there. Now if the air lines check out okay, the next thing you want to do is inspect the air shocks themselves for leakage. And the way you do that is you get out of the vehicle, you lock it, therefore it goes into the kneel position like it's supposed to for easy entry and exit. And then you get back in the vehicle, start it up, it'll automatically go back up to ride height while someone else is down below listening to each front air shock for leakage on there. It's common once it gets to that ride height or just above it, that shock shaft on there is worn and it just blows the air out on there. So it'll get to that point, pump up, and then the compressor will notice that and it'll pump it back up again, but only after a few times it'll just time out. And it'll throw its hands up in the air and set that C1725 code because it cannot keep the ride height of the vehicle no matter what it does. And the last thing you want to check is the height sensor itself. Make sure it's actually connected to the ball stud on there. Like I said, that spring steel, it loses tension over time, or the ball stud wears away from rust and corrosion over the years, and it just cannot hold on no more. You go over some rough terrain, it pops right off of there. And that was the case with this one. So again, these air suspensions, they seem complicated, but you have to look at the basics first. A lot of times, it's the basics on these, and half the time, I guess you could say, it's an air shock that's blowing out and just worn out from time. So do a thorough visual inspection, and you'll avoid unnecessary repairs like I did on this vehicle.